I'm very well. How are you?
Good. I love the hair color. I think it goes also with my sweater.
Thank you. It does actually.
So how exciting to be talking about another film of yours. And I mean, the creativity here, you're a writer, director, what inspired you to write a combination of, conspiracy, post-traumatic stress? I mean, so much involved.
Yeah, yeah. There is quite a lot of involved actually. You know what? I think it was just me channeling some of the favorite element, some of my favorite elements of films that have come before. I like a man on the run story. I love a political conspiracy film. And so it was really sort of taking all these elements of the things that I grew up really loving, and trying to put my own stamp on it. I think I knew quite early on that I wanted my first film to be an action film, and I wanted it to be the kind of film that I really sort of appreciated and grew up loving, which is kind of this sort of love letter to a late 90s, early noughties kind of action film, which was more about character. They were longer, a little bit slower, but they explored a more sort of they explored characters more in depth, and they were grounded in realism, and they had a kind of topical issue layered into entertainment. And so it really, that was my ambition, to make an entertaining film, but to have it have some kind of a social message. And how I landed on the idea of PTSD was, I'd always been fascinated with kind of mental health and with just psychology as a subject in general. But I had once seen this article that spoke about, and it was I'd randomly stumbled onto this article, and it spoke about how soldiers who were returning from the war in Afghanistan were struggling to reintegrate themselves into ordinary society. I'd read this one specific story about this man who had been back for less than 24 hours, and he walked into a shop and he killed the cashier, and he walked out and sat on the pavement and waited for the police to arrive. And when they did, they asked him what he was doing, what kind of thing, and he had no recollection of what had happened. And I was, and when I read that story, I was like, jeepers, there's something here. And that kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of really exploring PTSD as a subject matter, and then bringing it closer to home, looking at first responders in South Africa, and the amount of trauma that they witness on a daily basis. I mean, the statistics here are absolutely ridiculous, because A, we have a lot of crime in this country, but B, there are no platforms for these people to actually really deal with their mental health in a healthy way. And so when sort of thinking about PTSD, and then thinking about how specifically in my culture, and when it comes to men and an older generation of men and how they deal with mental health, it's always, if there's a problem, there's a certain idea of what a man should be. You've got to be strong, you can't show weakness, and you've got to sweep all your issues under the rug. And that can only work for so long before everything bubbles up to the surface and it explodes in a way that is unpredictable and unhealthy. And so all these different elements kind of informed the story as I was writing it and developing it. Spoke to a couple of firemen and got their personal experiences. And it was really that kind of helped me understand the character and then build upon the journey that Thea undertakes in the film from there.
I like the part how it also talks about the psychology, how there's also pride.
Yeah, I think that's it. That is the very thing that kind of stops a lot of people from actually being, that's the stigma that I'm speaking about, where the stigma is not necessarily what other people think, but it's what someone might think other people is thinking. And then, having them be seen as weak, there's too much pride here to admit that there's an issue. And that pride is a problem. well, this is my opinion, at least. These are just my thoughts and ideas and opinions that I have, and as a subjective filmmaker, you kind of just found its way in there organically.
No, it was very well exposed and talked about, because that's actually a case with a lot of individuals. It just takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, can we talk about the cast and how you found your Jason Bourne for this movie?
What's so interesting is that Jarrid, he's a phenomenal actor. And before I had seen him, I had no idea that he was this athletic, to be perfectly honest. I only found that out once we had cast him in the film, and we were starting to talk about the stunt choreography and the training that he needed to undergo for the film. And when I'd spoken to the stunt coordinator, he had been like, "Yeah, I know Jarrid. He's great." And then it kind of just helped this whole process move like so much faster, because he did like gymnastics since he was like a little kid, and so he's extremely athletic, which made that part of the filming pretty easy. But to be honest with you, it wasn't the reason I cast him. I think and part of it was, I think, my own thinking and maybe just conversations with producers. When you think fireman, there's a particular idea of a physical representation that you have in your head. You know what I mean? I think it's from all the different calendars that are out there, or just the way that they've been represented in the media previously. And it's hulky, bulky, kind of super masculine, man's man. And Jarrid walked in, and he did something completely different to any of the other actors that I had seen. And he just brought this intense vulnerability and this softness to the character that I just knew immediately that was it, because I knew that I was in good hands when it came to the stunts, and we could make any actor look a particular kind of way. But the film, for me, it was really, really important. It is grounded in something emotional, and in a really, it was very challenging on that actor to be able to hit all these different beats. The trauma that he goes through and his experience in this film just required a lot of energy and a lot of, and I think after that first, after seeing him in that first audition, it was just like a no-brainer for me. And he absolutely didn't disappoint. He did every single stunt in the film himself, and literally including the stunt where he's hanging out of a 22-story building. That is literally Jarrid hanging on the side of the road. I mean, along the side of the building. And yeah, he just became this Tom Cruise. He just wanted to do all his own stunts, and I was like, that's fantastic, because I really wanted to have everything done as practical as possible and as grounded in realism as possible. And yeah, the fact that he was willing to at least try was phenomenal. Yeah, it was an added bonus.
That scene in particular, I was like, what's he gonna do? He can only go down so far with a curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Then I was like, oh, it's really high. So for that scene, if it's him doing it, what precautions did you use?
We had quite a lot. We so first of all, we had to split the stunt up into different sort of sections. There was the first one where he was climbing out the window and then positioning himself and crawling down the curtain. And then there was the second part, which was literally the drop, where he kind of let go and then hung onto the window. And both of those stunts required a different kind of harness. We had rigged from the top of the building. There was a harness that was hoisting him. Every single actor that was involved in the scene had to be cable, had to be locked down, so that even the policemen who were leaning out the window had to be bound by by this thick pulley, and just to make sure that everyone was absolutely safe. We had about a day to rehearse, to actually set this set the entire thing up. And we got Jarrid in there pretty early on the sort of a couple of days before we were supposed to shoot the scene. And first for the stuntman, just to sort of go through, this is the action, this is what is going to happen. And then he got in there just to get him comfortable. You know, he sat in the harness for a little bit, and then did the stunt. And so the following, like in a couple of days, when we went back and actually filmed it, yeah, he was super comfortable because he knew what to expect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun. It was in our first week of filming as well, which was super exciting. I think it was one of the first stunts that we had done. You know, I think just growing up watching these things from over there, and then, you know, getting to make it was an awesome experience, and such a massive learning curve in terms of just what it takes to create action, and all the safety measures that are in place, that have to be in place. And yeah, it was a phenomenal experience.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations. So you found the young version of Tom Cruise. Is he real?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate talking about your film. Congratulations, and many more success out there for you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. It's been a lovely chat.
You're welcome. Thank you. You take care. Bye-bye.